Update. Am I the bad guy for hanging up on my MIL after she booked a family holiday that excluded me? I recently found myself in a rather uncomfortable situation with my mother-in-law. It all started when she organized a family holiday that completely excluded me. I was taken aback, and in a moment of frustration, I hung up the phone on her. After sharing this story with a coworker, she insisted that I needed to apologize for my actions, claiming that hanging up on anyone, especially my mother-in-law, was unacceptable. This made me question whether I was in the wrong, but after reflecting on the situation and receiving support from others, I felt a sense of relief. My husband and I have since been inundated with voicemails from my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, escalating to the point where we had to block them on all social media, email, and our phones. A last message my husband received was particularly hurtful. They suggested that something must be wrong with me because I have no family. This comment stung, especially since they are aware of my difficult childhood. I grew up in an abusive environment where I faced severe neglect and mistreatment. Leaving home at 18 was my escape, and I never looked back. My in-laws know my story, so it was shocking to hear my mother-in-law bring it up in such a dismissive way. When my husband's family suggested we move closer to them, it seemed like a good idea at the time. They are a tight-knit family, and we thought it would be nice to be involved in the lives of our future niece or nephew, especially since my brother-in-law and his fiancée were planning to start a family soon. However, the reality of moving was daunting. I was on a waiting list for medical treatment, and the thought of starting over with new jobs and insurance was overwhelming. For now, my husband and I have decided to stay put and focus on our own lives. We are creating our own holiday traditions and finding joy in that. I appreciate all the support I've received, and I'm grateful for my husband, who has been my rock through all of this. As we navigate these challenges, we're learning to prioritize our own well-being and happiness.
Am I the bad guy for telling my ex that if he really wants our daughter to quit ice dance, he can pay me back for the last 8 years of it? I'm still feeling pretty upset about a recent conversation I had with my ex-husband, and I really don't want to burden my friends with this drama. We divorced when our daughter was just 7 years old, and now she's 15. Since the divorce, I've had more custody time, and honestly, I've always earned more than he has. Because of that, I've been the one paying for all of our daughter's extracurricular activities. Ice dance has been her passion from the start, and she's stuck with it all these years. I've covered everything: lessons, costumes, travel, you name it. It adds up, but she truly loves it and shines during practices, so I've always budgeted for it. 3 years ago, my ex remarried a lovely woman who I genuinely like. She has 2 kids from her previous marriage, and they're around my daughter's age. One of her daughters, whom I'll call Ella, does ballet and attends the same school as my daughter. They got along well until recently, when some kids at school started asking to watch my daughter's ice dance videos and performances, showing less enthusiasm for Ella's ballet. It's tough being a teenager, and I completely understand why Ella felt upset. She ended up crying to her mom, who reassured her that she was talented in her own way. I appreciate that her mom isn't the type to pit the kids against each other. However, my ex overheard this situation and decided it was a major issue that needed addressing. He called me, all riled up, insisting we needed to protect both girls. I was taken aback, thinking he was joking at first. He went on about how our daughter was overshadowing Ella and how it wasn't fair for her to hog the spotlight. Then he switched gears, claiming ice dance was too competitive, too time-consuming, and too expensive, suggesting it was putting too much pressure on our daughter. I was trying my best to stay calm, especially since even his wife didn't agree with him, as she later texted me to apologize for his behavior. After he kept pushing, I finally snapped. I told him that if he really wanted our daughter to quit after dedicating 8 years of her life to ice dance, he could reimburse me for every penny I had spent on it. Lessons, equipment, costumes, travel, everything. I wasn't going to pull her out and break her heart just so he could feel like he was solving a problem that didn't even exist. He got furious, accusing me of weaponizing money and claiming I always flaunted my income over him. It's laughable because I've never asked him for a dime in return for all I've provided. He hung up after ranting about how I was trying to punish him. Now I'm left feeling guilty, even though I know I shouldn't. My daughter loves ice dance and has worked incredibly hard at it. Ella wasn't trying to sabotage her. She was just having a rough day. Somehow, this whole situation has turned me into the villain for refusing to drop everything and punish our daughter for being good at something she loves.
Am I the bad guy for telling my mom I won't change my mind about going to her house, which she just wants to take from me and my sister for he? My parents divorced over 10 years ago, and my sister and I would spend alternating weeks at each of their homes. My dad, who has a bit more financial stability, always covered our expenses for activities, field trips, and anything else we wanted to do. My mom, on the other hand, was more relaxed about our interests until she remarried when I was 9. Once she married her husband, who had 3 kids from a previous marriage, everything changed. Suddenly it became a problem that my sister and I were involved in activities that her stepchildren couldn't participate in. Their jealousy created tension and fights broke out. My mom pushed my dad to take us out of our activities, but he stood firm. They even went to court multiple times over the issue, but my dad wouldn't budge. As time went on, my mom's frustration grew. She pressured us to change our activities, especially when her stepkids started doing free ones. My sister was dedicated to her dance classes, and I was passionate about art and photography. We both had dreams tied to our interests, but that only seemed to annoy my mom more, especially since one of her stepkids shared similar aspirations but lacked the financial support. Things escalated further when my half-sisters were born. My mom began insisting that we sacrifice our interests for the sake of her stepchildren's feelings and family harmony. It was disheartening because I still loved my mom, but her actions made it hard to feel that love was reciprocated. I struggled with the fact that she seemed to care more about her stepkids than about us. Eventually, I decided I couldn't keep going to her house. The constant fighting and pressure were too much. I checked with my dad, and since the custody agreement allowed us to choose where to live at 16, I made my choice. My sister understood my decision. She saw how much I was battling with our mom and her stepkids. When my sister went to our mom's house without me, my mom lost it. She demanded we sit down and talk, but I refused. I told her she wouldn't change my mind. She expressed confusion and insisted I needed to spend time with her and the rest of the family. I reminded her that it was her family, not mine, and she had created that divide. My mom accused me of being selfish, claiming I didn't care about anyone else's feelings, but I felt like I was done fighting. I just wanted peace and to focus on my own life without the added stress of her expectations. So I stood my ground. Was I really the bad guy for wanting to prioritize my own happiness?
Am I the bad guy for giving my wife an ultimatum? I've been married to my wife for 20 years, and we have 2 wonderful kids. Our son is 15 and our daughter is 13. Up until recently, our marriage felt perfect, but things took a strange turn about 4 months ago. It all started when my son got into a minor fight at school. Neither boy was hurt, and there were no serious consequences, but I still had to pick him up for the day. When I called my wife to let her know what happened, she urged me to go easy on him, which caught me off guard since I had no intention of being harsh. I figured I would just talk to him about it. However, when I got home and asked my son to change and come downstairs, my wife suddenly became frantic. She was almost sobbing, grabbing at me as if she thought I was about to hurt him. I was completely bewildered. I had never raised my voice or laid a hand on either of our kids, so I couldn't understand why she was reacting this way. After that incident, similar situations kept happening. Anytime our kids did something wrong, no matter how minor, she would freak out and act as if I was a threat. I tried to talk to her multiple times, asking why she thought I would hurt our kids and if she was feeling okay. Each time, she would shut down and insist that nothing was wrong. It was frustrating and confusing for both me and the kids, who kept asking why their mother was acting this way. Last week, I finally reached my breaking point. I had asked our daughter to keep the noise down while she was on the phone, and my wife jumped in with her usual panic. I snapped and told her that she needed to stop treating me like an abuser and that she needed help. I said that if she didn't seek therapy, our marriage might not survive. My son, overhearing the conversation, asked her why she thought I would do anything to hurt them, and she had no answer. After I left to stay at my brother's house for a few hours, I returned to find my wife crying in our room. She told me to leave, claiming she didn't want to see me anymore. I reminded her that it was my house too, and if she wanted me gone, she would have to leave. She ended up staying with her parents for a couple of days, during which our kids texted her to reassure her that I had never hurt them. She interpreted that as me forcing them to say it, which only fueled her distrust. When she returned, I reiterated my stance. Either she goes to therapy, or we might have to consider divorce. She accused me of being heartless and claimed I never loved her. The truth is, I do love her, and I can't fathom why she's acting this way. There's no history of mental illness in her family, and she has a good relationship with her parents and friends. We both have fulfilling jobs, share household responsibilities, and our kids are growing up independent. I genuinely don't know what triggered this sudden change in her behavior. But I can't stay with someone who views me as a villain, especially if she refuses to seek help. I worry about the implications of her thinking I'm abusive, and I fear she might share that perception with others. I've tried everything to get her to talk to a professional, but she refuses. After reading some comments and suggestions, I decided to reach out to her parents to see if we could have a conversation. I'm not naive. I don't believe she's plotting against me or anything like that. I just want to understand what's going on. It's a strange situation, and I hope we can find a way to resolve it together. I found myself in a tough situation with my wife recently, and it all started with a conversation about our future. We had been discussing the possibility of moving to a new city for my job, which I was really excited about. However, my wife was completely against the idea. She had her reasons, of course, her job, her friends, and the life we had built together in our current city. As the discussions continued, I started to feel frustrated. I understood her concerns, but I also felt that this opportunity was too good to pass up. After several conversations that seemed to go nowhere, I made the decision to give her an ultimatum. I told her that I needed her to be on board with the move, or we would have to reconsider our relationship. It was a moment of desperation, and I wasn't proud of it. I thought that maybe this would help her see how important this was to me. But instead, it only pushed her further away. She felt hurt and betrayed that I would even consider putting our relationship on the line over a job. I tried to explain my perspective, but it felt like I was digging myself deeper into a hole. After a few days of silence, we finally sat down to talk. I realized that my approach had been wrong. Instead of fostering a conversation about our future together, I had created a divide. I apologized for the ultimatum, acknowledging that it wasn't fair to her. I wanted us to make this decision together, not force her into a corner. We ended up discussing our options more openly, weighing the pros and cons of the move and what it would mean for both of us. It was a long conversation, but it felt good to finally be on the same page. In the end, we decided to stay put for now. But I learned a valuable lesson about communication and compromise. I still wonder if I was wrong to give her that ultimatum in the first place. I know I was trying to express my feelings, but I can't shake the feeling that I might have crossed a line.